Namaste. Welcome to Global Perspectives. Our guest for today's episode is Dr. Seeram Ramakrishna. He is a professor at the National University of Singapore. Welcome to the show, Professor.
Thank you.
When we see people talking about science and spirituality historically, then we see that they tend to paint a picture that's completely polar opposites.
That's right.
While it doesn't have to be that way. And recently, they've come to a pattern where they want to see science and spirituality going together. What do you think is the reason behind that change?
There's always a polarization of views. And then there's also faith or some part of the human society that try to bring the opposite views together. I actually see benefits of both, while I see the challenges of both. Challenges when a polarization is done in terms of the views, people start somewhat an aggressive behavior towards the other views. So I say it's a challenge. And now I bring to the positive aspect is by having a polarized views, opposite polarized parties are actually pushing limits of the knowledge because they are challenging each other. So now they may not admit openly, but they're thinking, hey, there is something there. So I need to go and fix it. I need to discover the gaps. I need to fill the gaps. So there is, I see the positive aspect of challenging each other. So my suggestion is challenge each other, but in a, what I call a civilized way.
To bring out the best.
Bring out the best in others, but in a civilized way. Mm-hmm. So that way what happens is that is back to the how humanity prosper on planet Earth. If they have always been really at each other's throat, I do not think humanity would flourish. Mm-hmm. It is progressing because they understood, in addition to competition, we must have compassion. Compassion is nothing but giving space for others, mm-hmm. caring for others. Others means their point of view. So I think if they can bring out their strong polarized views, but at the same time keep that respect for each other, mm-hmm. or compassion for each other, but both of them say, let's find the best you can come up.
Do you think it would be right to say that we can contribute more to people's understanding of spirituality if we harness the power that science brings in?
If we look at deeply when you talk to people who are the top of the spiritual practices, knowledge, mm-hmm. they also say you progress in spiritual world by learning more. Mm-hmm. So it's actually a pathway to go to the higher levels of spirituality is this process of deeper reflection, feeling of the knowledge. So science is a tool where the basis is ideas, hypotheses, mm-hmm. are constantly tested, and the better hypotheses are validated ideas stay, which cannot be validated, they fall away. So in other words, I do not actually see any difference between science and spirituality. They are actually two sides of the same coin. But I really hope more and more people feel comfortable to use both of them, that means science and spirituality, in a amicable way. Mm-hmm. Using science and spirituality, you go to the pinnacle. Why not? Different people try differently, but they are trying to go to the pinnacle. It's about get the best of the best. Mm-hmm. In other words, one could and should employ both science and spirituality.
In this fast-paced world, we're all looking for equilibrium. In other regular words that we call balance, work-life balance, balance with academics and career, balance with family. Do you believe in the concept of balance?
Actually, it's no choice. The reason is we ask ourselves a question. Anyone in 24 hours, they like to take some rest, they like to work. So our day, any person's day is filled that way. So I have not seen any human being that works all the time for a year. That means no rest at all. And I haven't seen a human being that rests for whole 1 year, do nothing. So in other words, our bodies evolved or designed to have ability or leverage some level of rest, some level of work. So now if I extend this to all living beings, it seems to be the case. They need both. So now if I take that as a core understanding, a person like to have work-life balance, what they're basically saying, or their mind is saying, hey, I cannot be working 24 hours. Mm-hmm. Or someone says, I cannot be resting 24 hours. I want to do both. But then every human mind or every human being is unique. So no two individuals
are the same.
No. Even if they are twins, they're not the same. So since they're not the same, we have to give them the space, how they want to strike that balance between being very active, taking some rest. Now, taking rest is many forms. Mm-hmm. Like somebody says, I will catch a movie. Somebody says, I listen to a song. I go for jogging. Or I spend time with my family. Or I do cooking. Or I read a book. Something like that. So again, that is different for different people. Mm-hmm. Similarly, those people, when they look at being active, doing something with their life, for them, maybe just getting the basic needs of the family or the self, they're already fine. Mm-hmm. For some other people, well, I need to do much more than that. Mm-hmm. So that capacity is different for different people. So we had to let people strike their own balance. One interesting part is that balance constantly changes. Mm-hmm. As we age, age means every living being has an age. That means as they live their life, the balance constantly shifts. And so we just had to let it happen. So now if we bring it to the social scientists or management people, when they talk about work-life balance, they frame it very narrowly. So they're basically saying, hey, how much time is spent in commuting, how much time is spent in addressing office-related work, and how much time is spent on personal care or family care. This is how they frame it. So to me, it is a function of the society, mm-hmm. the community, your own situation. So then you just have to let the people strike a balance. So actually it is not a choice. It is a must. Mm-hmm. It is a must. There's no choice for living beings or human beings. It's a must.
Do you think it is possible for a person to be a devout believer and a rigorous scientist at the same time without facing cognitive dissonance?
Answer is yes. Because if they're truly in search of truth, there is no dissonance. Because it's all about knowing the truth. Mm-hmm. Science is all about getting the facts right. They can be verified by everyone. Spirituality is also trying to understand the ultimate truth of the universe. So if we take at that level, fundamentally, there is no dissonance. But if we stop at a much lower level, then start comparing them, that's where the dissonance comes. I think, unfortunately, I don't know why, I've seen everywhere in the world, mm-hmm. there's always this polarized views and dissonance. In my view, I think that's because they stopped to reach the pinnacle and they start already viewing the world at a different point. For example, the highest peak is Everest. The view you're going to get at the Mount Everest when you summit is obviously very different from you are only scaled maybe 1/10 of it on the ground. Obviously, the view is very different. And then we can already start imagining the world is this way and that way. And we come to the conclusion.
So if we jump to conclusions
We jump
too
to
quick.
Absolutely. Humans, we have both the abilities. We are curious. At the same time, we conserve our energy, which is basically the brain energy. So the process of conserving energy, we quickly jump to the conclusions, or we associate things with the familiar things, and then we just wrap up the whole thought process. Curiosity, that should be keep going. That's there, that ability. But at the same time, we also have this wanting to be our programmed to be efficient. We jump to the conclusion. So if one could be a little bit more familiar with the brain and mind, they know the tricks played by the mind on us, by ourselves. Our own mind is tricking. So if we can somehow observe and then don't let the mind trick us, then we can keep the process of, even though it is taxing, energy intensive, we keep satisfying our curiosity. So if we keep doing that, I think we would develop a new habit. And with that new habit, we can go farther. So my sense is those who see a dissonance, they're basically jumping into the conclusion quickly. And that may be comforting to them because that's just a natural process. But my suggestion is that's fine.
Work a little hard.
Work a little harder. Work a little harder, and even more nicer if you can do that. And it's a habit to be made, and we can do it, and we should do it. So I do not see that kind of dissonance. I rather see, hey, that I can be much more curious, and then take advantage of dissonance, and then see how can I go further. Absolutely. And I think that's very well for everyone, as long as they feel they're able to do it.
Do you think consciousness is a purely biological phenomenon, or do you think it's affected by non-material or spiritual aspects?
Consciousness is an emergent ability or function of your own brain. With that itself, they could do a lot of things. Now, instead of just leaving it that way, I would suggest to first harness that part, then move on. How about a hypothetical scenario? There is much more than this simplified consciousness definition, and then use that particular handle and then go even further, so that you might connect the dots differently. And life is all about connecting the dots. More dots, more diversely distributed dots, if one could connect, I think it's very satisfying, and it also gives a sense of happiness. And when we have a better sense of everything, you feel comfortable and happy. Exactly.
In what ways do you think the dialogue between scientists and spiritual leaders can give or bring forward a more holistic perspective of reality to the world?
It's an excellent question. I always keep it back of my mind. And your question is, in what way these two
entities can come together?
I was trying to figure out, do I want to use them entities? Do I want to say groups? Or let me put it as two domains of knowledge, or two domains of perspectives. So the best way for them is to be transparent, open, trusting each other, and then say it, whatever they have, either as a knowledge they gained, or the experiences they had, or hypothesis they have. And if they can, both of them can talk about it, share it transparently, with the serious motivation of proving the one point, it's actually better. They're not pushing to prove a point, rather they're emptying all they know, all they experience, putting on the table, both of them, both sides, or all sides, and let them all absorb it, see things from each other's lens, and see what is the best they can synthesize, amalgamate, or rearrange things, so that they not only talking about it or sharing, they're actually contributing, putting the foundations for the better future.
Collaboration over competition.
Both. It's the collaboration with the mindset of providing competitively the best they know. Sometimes competition in this business world, economic world, competition means they hide things. They do not share everything. So, but you are here competing to share more. Hide less and share more. Without feeling a sense of insecurity, a sense of feeling maybe others would not take you seriously. I think that should be left behind, especially those who are top of the ladder in these two domains, very important domains. I think they could, if they can leave their egos and focus on putting forward the best they know and the best they can share, and let that conversation, that exchange, lead to something better. I think this is what humanity needs to do.
Thank you for being with us today.
Well, Arya, thank you for having me. You are not only asking the question, but actually I see a real deeper curiosity in you wanting to know. To me, that's exactly the secret of everyone to further improve their understanding, knowledge, and be a better beings.
It was truly a very insightful conversation. We will be back next week with a new episode. Until then, hope you have a great week ahead. Namaste.